Hi, I'm Marie Eldridge. I'm an educator in the Handi Quilter studio. This is the 2.5-inch circle template, and you can see that we're going to be stitching right inside the circle. The best thing about this is that it's almost mistake-proof. Your circle stays so round because you're guided the whole way around it. I do have a little bit of handy grip on that, and that's just so it doesn't slide. I always find when I'm doing circles that a little bit of handy grip helps to keep them in place. This has the little slot in it, so we're going to have our needle up, and this just drops over our hopping foot. I'm going to line that up, and it doesn't really matter where this slot goes because it doesn't make a bobble in your circle will still stay round. But I am going to line up this bottom grid line on the stitched line that I have here. I've already done a take-up stitch and kind of stitched that off so it's got a locking stitch there. And then I can just bring my ruler in, and I don't have to worry about doing all that and juggle the ruler and take a risk of hitting the ruler with a needle. So once I have that down, I'm just putting the we're just going to stitch just like that. We're going to hold that down, go all the way around, and that's your first circle. Now if you're going to do circles in a continuous line, you go another half, which this time I'm going to go over the top, and I'm going to stop at halfway, which I have a grid line there, so I know exactly where to stop. Then I'm just going to slide my ruler over till it hits the hopping foot. I'm going to line up the grid line at the bottom with the stitch, and I'm ready to stitch that again. But this time I'm going to go in the opposite direction, and that will put the double stitching at the bottom this next time. That was once, and then if I go another half and stop right at that grid line, then I'm just traveling along. So one more time, if I line up on there, this time I'll go around the top. Ooh, look how good I judged that. All right. Okay, so now I can just take that off, and that's all there is to just doing a row of circles. But there's so many things you can do with a row of circles. On this, so first of all, this ruler is like a companion to all the other circle rulers that we have. They just work so good together. I like to echo, and so this is my favorite. I have an echo about 1/4 of an inch above, but what I did was I stitched the first one at a 2-inch, and then I can just bring in my 2.5 inch and put it over the top. So I can do all the way around the circle to echo. These I've kind of stitched together first and then did an echo the other side. You can see on these circles down here that I went around the inside with a smaller ruler, a 2-inch circle, and then echoed all the way around with a 2.5. And when I echoed all the way around, you can just drag your thread to go from 2-inch to 2-inch. So you kind of do a little locking stitch, drag over to the next one, and you just have a little line of thread that you can trim after. All right, so the next fun thing to do with this are some clamshells. These are all different things you can add to a clamshell. So you can see here there's a feather inside, a wiggle on top. There's just like a daisy shape with a curl and a loop. These are just E's and L's and a half a feather inside, some more E's, pebbles inside, E's and L's just inside. There's so many different things you can put inside a clamshell. So let me show you what you can do on a clamshell. First of all, again, I'm going to bring up my thread, I'm going to do a little locking stitch, and then I'll bring in my ruler. So it's so awesome. You can travel so quick with this and get such a perfect circle. So I'm just going to line up this grid line, and I have the lines on the bottom of the ruler so that they line up exactly with what's stitched. If you have your ruler upside down, then those get distorted. So I'm just going to go over the top, stop, bring it over the top, And then I'm just sliding it till it hits the hopping foot and doing a new one. These are so easy to do and they look so perfect. They're great, a great shape. They're great in a border. They're great in a sashing. You can see here that I've done some orange peels. Let me just show you how we did those, and I added some different things inside of those, or you can leave them just plain. So let's just do a little orange peel with this ruler. Get all my thread out of the way for. All right, so I have my clamshell, and now I'm going to make this inverted shape, so I'm going to tip my ruler up the other way. So first I'm going to put it on there, and if I line up the center of the ruler with my hopping foot and the top, which is the half of the circle, if I put that right at the top of that clamshell, I am set to go because I'm just going to fill in this side over here. So definitely have way too much thread following me around here. There we go. Okay, now I'm just going to slide it over. Again, I'm going to keep that grid line at the top of my clamshell. I'm going to center the bottom here, so the middle of the ruler or the middle of the circle, right with where the clamshells met down in the center. So now I'm going to come down, do a half a circle, and just like that, I've created that orange peel or pumpkin seed, whichever you want to call it. And it's so perfect. I love that it's like, I don't know, can you say idiot proof? Yes, it just seems so nice to have it work out so great and so easy to do. I think you'll really enjoy this ruler. Okay, so that is if you just do one. Now, what if you do two? So you're going to go across the bottom, but you're also going to come back the other way. You can see there's some fun things that you can add inside of those. This would make such a cute border. Oh, I'd love to have this in a sashing. This one is just a fill. It's like sand. You're just scribbling in there. This one, I just did ruler lines back up. So I'll just use the ruler to kind of guide me as I go across. And this one, it's both directions. So up and down and across. So let me show you how I did these. We're going to start at the bottom of the circle. So first thing I did was I stitched these circles across. Now I'm going to bring in my ruler, and I'm going to line up the grid line at the bottom and line up that center so it's right between the two. So I'm going to do the top left and then come all the way over. Okay, so top left, all the way over. Stop right there in the middle. I can just move that over, and I'm doing all the bottoms of these. Okay, and then we'll meet up with this one. Let me just move that out of the way, and you can see how those went. So see how quickly those went across the bottom. All right, we're going to start and do the top, and I'm going to start from the left and work to the right, but it doesn't matter which side you start on. I'm lining up my ruler. I'm lining that grid line with the top, either your seam or your stitched line, and I want the center of my ruler lined up right where the center, where the two circles meet. So I'm just going to come back, do the top of the circle, slide the ruler, make sure it's lined up here, make sure it's lined up here. If it gets off a little bit, this is the place where you would want to shift that. Like you could shift the bottom of the ruler and adjust where it's on the curve rather than at the very top, because otherwise it's going to show a little space. So it looks like I'm just a little high on that one. We'll make sure we're lined up. You want to meet that right in the centers. So great that it has all of these different grid lines so that you're able to do that. So you can meet in the centers. Look how fast that went. So that was good without doing any kind of a grid at all. You can just do your continuous circles and go right across your sashing or your border, and it looks great. So a couple of more circles over here, just the circle and then some different things that you can add into them, a swirl on the inside, which I also echoed this. Just, you know, you can even add a little wreath. So lots of things you can do with this, but the thing you're probably going to do the most are clamshells. So let me advance this fabric and I'll show you how to do those. We're going to start out with some clamshells that I've already stitched out, and that one we're going to do next is a half a one. So the first ones, they're just like those, so easy how we started out with those pumpkin seeds. This time I have my needle set. I'm going to bring in my ruler. I want it halfway because I want it to land right in the center of the last row of clamshells. So once I have this set, then I'll get my needle up at the top of the curve, and I'm just going to drop down right in the center of that clamshell. So I'll stop there. I'm going to move my template or my ruler across. I'm looking to make sure I'm lined up here in the center and that I'm lined up at the top of the clamshell. Okay, across. It looks like I'm just a little bit off, so I'm going to go up to the top, and I'm just going to shift so that that center is the same as this center, and then I'll finish going across. That way I can make sure that those stay centered. And these are such a great design. I love curves on a quilt, and these are so easy and serious. They are just turning out so good. All right, there is another row on the top of there. You can see how that quickly you could do a whole border, you could do a block, you could do a quilt, you could do a baby quilt. Just so many things you can do with a clamshell. So here you can see I've added something in the center. I'm just going to take you over there and show you. Once again, we're going to start in the half. So I've lined up here. So I'm just doing a half of a clamshell, and I want it to end right in the center of there. So I'm going to line up here, line up here. Everything looks good, ready to stitch. Okay, now that I'm there, I'm going to just move my ruler to the center. So I still have it on the top there, which kind of restricts me. I'm going to go straight up, a little to the side, a little to the right, back to where I started, move my ruler over, and travel. And I love that little plume in the center of there. So a way you can add a variation to that. All right, I'm in the center right now, so I'll just line these up. And that's the time you want to do this little center thing. You could do it so you add little spikes. You can make them square at the top. There are so many different things you can add to a clamshell to change them up. Straight lines make a difference, little curves make a difference, but these are just a, oh, we got to pause in the center, line up here, line up there, go straight up, straight line, straight across the top. All of these just add such a great variety to your quilt and a different texture. So there's your, are you looking ahead? Look what happened. These are turned upside down. So usually I start at the bottom, but you can also start at the top. So if you can see these here, I started at the top, came all the way across, and then on my way back, this is where you add your inside fill, however you're going to do it. If you're going to do a great big fleur-de-lis or little teardrops. So let me just show you one of those since it's upside down. I'm just going to travel down this line. So the way I know how to do that, how to set it up, is this one's going to be a half again, so I just put that grid line on the top of there, so I know I have to start clear up here to do a half. So I'm going to come around and drop down, and once I'm in the center, I can just add those little teardrops and then move my template over. So I want this to be in the center of here. I definitely want that there. I can see that I'm off just a little bit, so I'm going to go to the top. Once I get to the top, I'm going to do my adjustment. So now I'm going to adjust just a little bit. And then when I come down, I'll be right in the center of the next one and all set to do something fancy. So let's just get this machine out of the way. You can take a look, all the different things and the cute look, great looks that you can get using that 2-inch template. There's just so many uses for it. So I have a couple of quilts I'll show you that are just functional things that you can do with your template. This quilt has circles in the center of a square. Perfect place to sit that on, because sometimes when you're trying to go around that applique, that's when it's the hardest, and these really puff up, and that's where I really want a good circle. And if I have 2 circles that I can go and echo, oh yeah, I like this one that I feel like I can't make a mistake. Again, the center of a flower, you can just use that. You can also go around the circle and then spiral in, but your outside is going to be perfectly accurate. And then here are some different ones. Circles with an echo on the inside, and they have a different fill, but also you can use a part of that. You don't have to use the whole circle, and you can get part of it. My favorite thing, which you can use this ruler for, are a continuous curve. You'll find so many uses for this 2.5-inch ruler. I know you're going to like making perfect circles.